Well, thank you so very much. You would appreciate that by 2019, we were already actually approaching 2 decades. Zimbabwe under, and in particular, illegal sanctions imposed on her by the West, and in particular the US and the European Union bloc. These sanctions has a clear history that it was a retaliatory punitive measure by the West after, of course, Zimbabweans had to take a next move in reclaiming their land, the land reform of 2000. And you would appreciate that there were also a question of neo-colonialism, where also the opposition forces, I want to believe also they did not know what they were doing during the time, also being used to call for the same sanctions or to sanitize the process without realizing that the process was eventually going to harm the own people. This was actually confirmed in 2020 when a special rapporteur from the same UN came on board and, of course, asserted the position that indeed the sanctions on Zimbabwe, so of course labeled as targeted sanctions, were affecting the ordinary woman on the ground, the youths on the ground, and of course the targeted was now a lipstick approach. Indeed, these sanctions were confirmed to affect ordinary citizens. But this came in 2020 after SADC as a region had joined hands and of course declared October 25 a day to stand in solidarity with Zimbabwe and call for unconditional removal of such sanctions, and in particular illegal sanctions on Zimbabwe.
So now, when we look at the challenges and problems that Zimbabwe is faced with, can you please share some of these challenges and problems to say if we have sanctions in Zimbabwe, we will fail to achieve A, B, C, D? So far, what are some of the challenges that we have faced as a nation? Okay,
thank you so very much. Like I've alluded to, we are operating not in isolation. We are operating in a world system, a world order where the financial management systems are controlled globally. It is, of course, by way of a deliberate design that you would appreciate that the US itself and the United Kingdom and the West, they are in control of the management system of financing system. So it is from that end where they are pulling or calling the shots from. It is not easy. It has never been easy for Zimbabwean businesses, for Zimbabwean, of course, mega deals to transact across the system of international arena without, of course, realizing some penalties. And certain countries, much as they may want to trade with Zimbabwe, they will be hounded by such. We are enlisted to say, if you want to trade with Zimbabwe, we are definitely going to also impose 1, 2, 3 on you. So some of these countries, even here in SADC, you realize that they have remained only on the verge of solidarity, lobbying, advocacy. They haven't managed probably even to do a lot openly to support Zimbabwe. Why? Because they also fear for their own backyards because of the same system. So it is a unipolar system that the US deliberately had to put in place in the post-Cold War to make sure that they remain in control of course, the system, international system, economic system, and so forth. So we are, of course, we found ourselves as victims to the same system, but here we are. We have got our kith and kins. They are in solidarity with us. We are also employing sanction-based measures. So there is a lot that we need to do going forward. We cannot continue crying. Crying alone is not enough. So these are measures that are being put in place to make sure that we remain claiming our space in the rest of nations.
All right. Now that you have mentioned that it blocks investment flow in the nation, you also spoke about how it affects economic growth. Now, looking at the current economic growth trajectory, which has charmed world funders, we talk of the IMF, we talk of the World Bank. They have actually, projected that there's going to be a rise in terms of economic growth, 6% economic growth this year. And whatever we are doing, Zimbabwe is charming them to say they are actually surviving and thriving in such an environment. What could be the cause of that? What could be leading to that growth?
It's our resilience mode. It is also the coming in of a multipolar world order, which is a reality and a competition to the unipolar and a counter to the unipolar world order that the US has been enjoying over these years. You do appreciate the coming in of the BRICS and now BRICS Plus, where we see countries like Brazil, South Africa, and Russia and China are joining hands to say, can't we come up with our own financial platforms? We have the new development bank that is being set up by, it's already in place by the BRICS, of course, the bloc. We are having India coming on board. Now we are beginning to see China Africa platforms, India Africa platforms. It's no longer only US. So much as of course the US may also be feeling the heat to want to come back into the ring and compete. Realities there. We now have a multipolar world order, and I want to believe we long declared the look east policy. It was an alternative way for us to survive. We are also looking inwards. Look at the theme. What is it is talking about? We are looking inwards inside Zimbabwe. What can we do to survive, whether with or without the West? So it's a reality that is coming aboard, and it's a fact that they cannot deny. Hence, of course, the charming issue that is coming in. They are realizing it. If they are not also on the board, probably they will be left out also in some of the development opportunities that Zimbabwe is presenting and Africa is presenting. So it's realism at play. Yeah,
absolutely. So do you think that we need to have veto powers as far as United Nations is concerned, in terms of probably coming up with decisions? Probably this could have just been a call to say no sanctions should be imposed on Zimbabwe. The fact that Africa does not have those veto powers.
Well, maybe let me even elaborate on that. You would appreciate that the UN system, with about 193 countries, we have got permanent members, 5 of them, the US included. And right, so on all these decisions, we are considered equal. But guess what? Some animals, some countries in this very jungle, they are more equal than others. The UN imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe outside the UN parameters. What does the section, the Article 2 say? What about Article 40 about the UN Security Council? They have to do something, and even to go an extent of stopping the US from doing that. But the US is actually, I think, in short, they've captured the systems of the United Nations to an extent that we are more like ordinary members with less powers, no say. We cannot stop any decision. If we had such powers, we could have stopped the death of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi in the hands of international law. We should have stopped even these sanctions on Zimbabwe. But Africa, we have less power on that table. This is why Zimbabwe has kept a position, and other African countries, of calling for the reforming of the UN Security Council. Such powers are actually a threat to the sovereignty of other member states. That is why I am saying some animals are more equal than others. This is where we are. But in the basis of diplomacy, cooperation, trade, it has kept us going. We are finding our way. Here we are, 6% projected in terms of growth and so forth. So Zimbabwe is emerging stronger, and of course we are besting sanctions one way or the other, with the challenges of course we have, but we are moving forward.
And of course that takes us to this year's theme. We're looking at heritage-based innovation, and of course we're looking at issues to do with identity, self-determination and resilience. Now, can you kindly clarify this theme for this year? Because His Excellency also is going to be giving a national address and, you know, trying to make Zimbabweans understand that we will continue thriving in such an environment. Of course, sanctions can delay our progress, but already we are moving a step forward, brick by brick.
Indeed. Thank you so very much. I think it is important also for people to understand that even before we talk about the heritage-based development, we now have a heritage-based curriculum. I think it's a question of building back our self-confidence, our redefining of our identity as a people. We need to regain back our sense of pride as Africans and as Zimbabweans. It is only at that point when you realize that you are an equal player, even at international level. Right now, many people have got this feeling of thinking that probably we are a subordinate of the US, we are a subordinate of the East, we are a subordinate of this other country, we are an equal player. So in that context, we need actually to find ourselves and say, we can run this race. In the work of AI, what can we do? What can we augment between we have our skills, we have our human capital. How can we also lead in defining this new wave that is coming from within? So this is why I think we already have innovation hubs within our own country. We need the processors. We need to be processing even value addition and beneficiation, looking inwards. It starts with the building of the self-confidence of our own people. We don't owe anyone an explanation why we should do things our own way. This is the issue around self-determination and sovereignty, which we must enjoy. We are not a subordinate of the US. We are not a subordinate of any other country. We are only meeting there in terms of cooperation, interest, and of course the areas of diplomacy. But we must run our race. This is, I think, the message that is coming out at a particular day, and in particular a critical day like the day October 25, when we are reminding each other that despite all these sanctions, here we are as Zimbabwe.
Dr. Abigale right here in the studio, helping giving us in-depth knowledge as far as sanctions are concerned. Well, today is the 25th of October, anti-sanctions, SADC anti-sanctions day. Now we get to cross over to Heritage Village, where Ian and Nathaniel are on standby.
Indeed, it is a good morning, Rumbetu, and to your viewers, thank you so much for joining us. We are coming to you live from the Heritage Village.